After a bye week, the Panthers have had the opportunity to regroup, recharge, and scout their next opponent. The battle in Blacksburg is for first place in the ACC Coastal. Will Pitt take a stranglehold on this division? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today. Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. That's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of October 16th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
Believe is that combination of letters all Pitt needs to capitalize on an unprecedented moment in the ACC? It's Vatech week, and not only is it time for another round of personal issues with the Hokies, but a turning point in the season. Welcome to Do or Die College Football, Vince. This is it.
Yep. It almost feels like there's a line drawn in the sand for this game. I don't know if it's quite that far, but if Pitt wants to be the team that a lot of people are saying they are, they got to go out and they got to look impressive this week.
I mean, this is what, whenever they say the college football regular season is the best because it means the most, it's because you're in the middle of a season like we are now, and the game is as big as any game's going to be. Because if Pitt loses, all this hope, all this belief instantly goes away. And the funny thing is, we didn't really have it a few weeks ago after the Western Michigan loss. But here we are, Pitt with a huge opportunity. The game is here after a bye week. I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling ready. Hopefully you're ready to hail hard with us today. We're previewing this game. Let's get it going. At H2P Show on Twitter is where you can hit us up on social media. And if you like to email, you can always send an email with no character limit. Hail the number 2, pittpodcast@gmail.com. Of course, we appreciate all the feedback we get anywhere on social media, through the email, or even in the Reddit neck of the woods, inside the Panther lair. We're there, hailing to Pitt with you. And this week we're brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You could go to prettyeasypodcasts.com to get your own podcast started today. For a very, very low rate, you'll have a personal producer. Podcasting is pretty simple to do, yes, but a lot of the times the technical stuff, the editing, the getting your show out there, it's time consuming. And that's where Pretty Easy Podcasts comes in. And if you need that kind of help, just go to prettyeasypodcasts.com.
Yep, and they do, I must say, make podcasting pretty easy.
All right, Vince, we are here for Virginia Tech week. Pitt is on the fast track to a coastal title, possibly, maybe even, dare I say it, the ACC title, but there's a lot of season to go. It's funny reading all these percentages and the power rankings and the projections in the middle of the year, and all of a sudden Pitt's in a favorable spot. But man, if they're not riding that jackhammer speedway, they're not going to make it, and it all starts this week.
Yes, it does. This team has looked, since that Western Michigan loss, they've had 2 pretty impressive games. And, it seems like there is a lot of optimism at the moment, not just from Panther fans, but from some national people out there. But if they don't get it done this week, Alan, it don't mean a thing.
Absolutely not. Yeah, even though the national people are talking about you, you block that noise out. I'm interested to see how Pat Narduzzi does in terms of getting his players ready and not overconfident. I think all he would need to say is, you lost to Western Michigan, so don't get cocky, kids. And they go out there and they do the work. But they have a task ahead of them. That team that barely lost to Notre Dame last week ruined North Carolina's season before it even started. And, they're at home, which is, for my money, the toughest place to play in the ACC. So Pitt has their hands full this week, and they're coming into this game a team that averages over 50 points a game, Vince. But I feel like the Pitt Panthers as a team that averages over 50 points a game, they're not like one of those Hawaii teams that averages over 50 or 60 points a game. This is a team that averages over 50 points a game and also has a ferocious defensive line and pretty damn good linebackers too, and a growing and improving secondary. I'll give them credit. So it's a different kind of squad when you talk about the Pitt offense being so good so far. They're not just that.
No. Again, I mean, they're coming out and they're executing very well. And while they may be letting up more points than some people would like, they do have that big play potential. We talked about that on last week's show, and that goes a long way into keeping you in a lot of ball games, especially whenever you got a great offense.
And they're bringing it up against Virginia Tech, Vince. Now let's talk about the matchup and get right into it. I mean, they, like we said, ruined UNC season before it even started. Then they had, a couple wins against teams they should have pounded, and they pounded Middle Tennessee pretty good. Richmond, though, only beat them by 11, and then they lost to WVU on the road, and then last week lost to Notre Dame. So that's their road to this game. They're at 3-2, very respectable. I'd say some would say overachieving, because was Virginia Tech even projected to really make waves in the ACC this year like they normally do?
I wouldn't say make waves. I mean, they're always, based on their name, they're always projected to be in that top, 3 or 4 of the Coastal Division. And in the Coastal Division, a lot of times that gives you a good chance to make the championship game. But this is not a super talented team of previous Virginia Tech seasons, but that doesn't mean we can't overlook them. There's still some good players on this roster, but yeah, not the expected to have the elite season that some previous squads would have had.
I'm excited to see how Pat Narduzzi with the week off game plan to just run it right up the middle the entire game all over Virginia Tech. How great would it be if it was a repeat of that game a few years ago at home? But I highly doubt it, because it is, of course, in Blacksburg. But then again, Pitt has some stuff going in their favor. Narduzzi off of the week off, 7-2 record coming off of that bye week. Pitt is, of course, the fresher team going into this, Vince.
Yeah, they are, and this is that big rest versus rust conundrum that some people have, and I want to talk about it from both sides, Alan. First of all, on Pitt's side, they weren't tremendously banged up. A couple guys with some bumps and bruises, as Narduzzi would say, but guys, getting a chance to refresh and recharge. But whenever this offense was just clicking on all cylinders so well, is that a detriment being off for a week, or do you feel like this team, with the senior leadership of Kenny Pickett, they were practicing hard during the off week, and they're going to pick right up where they left off?
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about the week off killing any momentum at all. Actually, no, I'm for Kenny Pickett's sake, especially, like a week off for him, I think is much needed. He's taken some hits, scrambling, maybe unnecessarily diving into defenders the last few weeks. So I think the week off for him is going to be good. And then for these wide receivers, yeah, maybe could be a concern, because you saw some guys just getting into the groove. Jordan Addison, I don't think we have to worry about. He's just that damn good. But Tazier Mack, was stepping it up a little bit. Jared Wayne finding his legs, and of course you've got Kroll, who's been in a rhythm, I think, since the season started. But I think that ultimately I rather have the rest. I rather have the quarterback feeling the best, and that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Kenny Pickett feeling 100%. Going into the toughest place he's ever had to go play, he said on his own damn podcast about Blacksburg. So that's what is most important to me. Give me the rest.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you there, as it's not like they're off for months or anything like that, and I think that they're focused. They know what's in front of them. They know what's at stake this game, and hopefully they've been well disciplined over this off week. Now Virginia Tech, on the other hand, they had a hard fought game, a tough game that they could have won against Notre Dame, losing at a field goal late in the game. Now, kind of what I'm thinking here, Alan, is while that wasn't a conference game, it was still Notre Dame coming to town, and most of the time, whenever that happens, that Notre Dame's coming to town, that's the biggest game on your schedule a lot of the time. It was a night game. The crowd was definitely up for that one. And to lose like that, I'll say this. It's hard to say how the team is going to feel coming off there, because they do still have a lot to play for as far as the ACC goes. But
hell yeah.
You talked about that being a tough place to play with that crowd. I think the crowd's going to be blowed up. I really do. I think they're blowed up. They put all their energy in the last week. It didn't quite turn out, and now they got to play a 3:30 game after a big loss at home, where all the momentum was killed. That's got to be tough for the crowd, and that's a good thing for Pitt. They got to be able to come out and start fast and put this team in their place.
Yeah, the fact, when you talk about the factor of the crowd, I'm never underestimating and calling out a Virginia Tech crowd. I think that's the kind of school that's just going to be ready every week, even if they know they're out of the running for certain accolades. And that loss last week, killed their hopes and dreams for some things, but for others, they're still very much alive in the Coastal. That loss last week doesn't do anything to that, right? So, this is a team with tons to play for. So I think their fans are going to be coming ready for that. They're tied with Pitt, 1-0 in the ACC as the best winning percentages in the division. So losing to Notre Dame, of course, disappointing. But I am not thinking this crowd's going to be any less vocal. If anything, if their student body gets wind of all the praise that Kenny Pickett's laid upon them preseason and throughout this season already, they're going to come ready to give Kenny what he's been waiting for. But I can't wait. This is the matchup. Kenny Pickett versus the crowd. I'm expecting Kenny to give him a big shh, maybe after a big clutch touchdown. This is going to be really exciting. But hell no, Vince. This crowd's not blowed up. They never are. They have unlimited energy. It's one of the best crowds in all college football. I respect them. Respect the opponent.
I do respect them, but I'm just saying it's tough. It's tough to
if
get
it was
out
us, if it was Pitt after losing to Notre Dame, we would be screwed as a crowd. Yes, I would say so. But it's different fan bases.
It is different. We'll see. We'll see what they're like. But yeah, Justin Fuente, he's got to be telling his team, you lost last week, but it's all still in front of you. You control your own destiny in that conference. A lot to play for, and yeah, I do expect the players. I expect them to come out fired up. No doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure. And the Virginia Tech defense, they pose a special challenge to Kenny Pickett because they're going to have that crowd behind him. But other than that, there's no standouts, at least up front, that make me think, oh man, this guy's going to be getting after Kenny and destroying Gabe Hoy all game. Tywan Garbett, pretty good pass rusher, decent. Yep. But he's no Haba, I would say. Probably similar. But this is Kenny Pickett though, who's this defensive line's facing. I think Pitt has the advantage. Is what I'm getting at here when it comes to this quality of talent Virginia Tech has up front, getting after the quarterback. But then again, this is a team that's put out some pretty damn good cornerbacks as of late. So that might pose an issue, is what the secondary is doing against Pitt's receivers.
Yeah. They haven't had a tremendous amount of sacks or anything up front. You mentioned Garbett, a player that Pitt was after heavily in an era where Virginia Tech was just taking every defensive end Pitt was trying to recruit. But yeah, I'd say the secondary, they do have some young players back there, but probably the strength of this team, or strength of the defense for sure. But I mean, there's talent. There's talent on this team. Not an elite Virginia Tech defense by any stretch, but they are going to be tough to go against. But I do think we're going to have an advantage, specifically in the first half. Alan, their middle linebacker Dax Holyfield going to be out for this first half due to a targeting penalty last week. This is a kid that's second in tackles on their team.
Vicious player.
Tied for first in sacks. He's got an interception this year. And probably most importantly, and if you watched Justin Fuente's press conference this past week, he was talking about how this kid, he does all the calls on defense on the field, kind of the quarterback of the defense. So that's going to be a big adjustment, not having him out there. They got a week to prepare for it, for whoever is going to be taking over those play calling duties on the field. But that's certainly not going to be something easy for Virginia Tech to overcome. And, if you're not ready for some of the different route combinations and accuracy that Kenny Pickett and these receivers are going to throw at you, it could be tough sledding.
Yeah, that's a huge miss for them for the first half. The targeting rule strikes again, and Pitt has the advantage. Dax Holyfield out for that first half. Need to take advantage of it. We'll see. We'll see how they react. That guy does everything. He literally leads them in sacks. He gets tackles. He can play coverage too. But I am just most interested in seeing how their corners match up, Vince, and they keep Jordan Addison at bay. I think they're going to have a real focal point trying to stop him. Let's see. Do you think he'll see any double coverage? I assume that their top corner, Jermaine Waller, will be at or around near Jordan Addison, but will extra men be put near the 9 touchdown leading in the country, my Heisman pick behind Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison.
Yeah, I if I were them, I would try to double cover him. The guy's getting open all over the place, so whenever he gets the ball, he's making plays. But the good thing is, you got, as you said, Alan, you got Taysier Mack, you got Jared Wayne, Lucas Kroll, even Galvin Bartholomew. Running a 2 tight end set for Pitt's been pretty effective. So they got a lot of guys that can go out there and do damage and get whenever they get the football. And I'm thinking, Virginia Tech may try to double them, but this isn't a situation where we only have one good player. It's not like this is maybe a Tyler Boyd situation where we just have to give him the ball every single time. We got other players we can rely on that are doing very well, and we got a quarterback that can get them the ball too. That's the nice thing about it. These guys don't have to be wide open because Kenny, he's very accurate right now.
Oh, Kenny is killing it. And Kenny is going to be, I think, primed and ready. This is his moment. I think he's been looking forward to this game all year long. He's mentally in a fantastic place. You could just tell. Look at the guy. He is cool as cool can be. The biggest man on the biggest campus right now. He is killing it. And he's got the word Heisman is not far from his name on some lips. And he has a big chance this weekend. So what a moment. What an opportunity it is for the Pitt Panthers, especially in that first half. You have to take advantage when a middle linebacker, a leader on the defense like Dax Holyfield, is out. But then you have the Pitt defense, Vince. Even if Pitt can't run the ball at all, even if Pitt gets frustrated, maybe turns it over a little bit, we still think they'll have a shot because of the nature of the offense and what Kenny Pickett's able to do throwing the ball. But then if there's a ton of points being given up, it could be tough. So if Virginia Tech's going out there this week and getting under 30, I like Pitt's chances like they did last week. But if Virginia Tech improves on what they did last week and scores in the 30s and higher, and it's a shootout, Pitt obviously will have the advantage. But I don't know. Last shootout they were in was not so great.
No, it was not. But what's interesting is that this Virginia Tech team is if you look at their offense, you look at what they've been doing this year. They're more of a running team. They're running it more than they're passing it. In fact, their quarterback Braxton Burmeister, he's leading the team in rushing yards and attempts. Even though they have a whole host of running backs that they've been using. They've been doing a lot of quarterback design runs, and he is banged up, a banged up shoulder. We're going to be getting to that in a second, but this is a different type of Virginia Tech offense, relying more heavily on the run than they have maybe in some previous years. But you got to think Justin Fuente, he knows. How to beat Pitt's offense or defense. He's done it before. We've seen it with the slants over the middle, the deep fade passes, drawing pass interference penalties. They torched Pitt some years. They don't even need to complete these passes in order to score points. They'll just draw penalties doing it. They've done it before, but it's going to be out of character kind of for what they've done this season. So that's going to be fascinating to see if they switch up their game plan and really try to attack Pitt's weaknesses, or if they use what kind of has brought them to the dance.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see because they do have different weapons than normal. They're trying. I feel like they're trying to be more balanced, but do they pull that out? And they go and they figure out that okay, Trey Turner, Robinson, they can do all the stuff we've always done against this team. Go take advantage of that cover 4 and get the guys out on an island and just have those referees help us out a little bit and maybe even burn them. The running backs as a running team, they got Blackshear and Holston are the two main guys, and they don't strike fear in you, do they, Vince, as a running team, even though that's what they are?
Well, yeah, they're running backs, not particularly, but their receivers do scare me a little bit. Specifically, Trey Turner. I think this guy's an excellent player. But like you said, Blackshear, Holston, even Kennesaw King, Malachi Thomas. These guys, they're nothing. I mean, they haven't shown anything special on film from what I've seen. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to try to run them. But again, I could still see Fuente saying, I know what defense Narduzzi's going to throw at me. I know he's going to try to shut down our run, even though that may be what we do best. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to attack them, with the passing game. So even though they've been doing all this running, it would not surprise me if they came out and just started throwing all over the yard.
They will not beat Pitt unless Pitt makes mistakes and gets really frazzled, especially on defense. Kenny Pickett versus the crowd, of course, that's the matchup. But I'm interested to see how this defense goes out there, and there will be times where Virginia Tech has momentum or the crowd maybe tries to amp up their offense, and it's the emotion of the game is what gets the Pitt Panthers, I think, most of all. Their coach might hamper them a little bit with being a little one-dimensional and hard-headed with what they throw out there on defense, Vince. But still, the scheme works and well enough against a team, especially like Virginia Tech, a team where there's no world beater. There's no one person who's going to be like, we cannot cover that guy unless we keep doing what we're doing. That's how our coaching staff thinks. There's no one guy. So Pitt should really, on paper, go out there and just execute, and they should be fine on defense.
This is an offense that Pitt traditionally excels against. Not necessarily. I'm not saying that Fuente can't outcoach them, but you got Burmeister, who's more of a runner than a thrower. He's got a banged up shoulder. So I wonder how, effective he's really going to be. I wonder if they're not going to run him nearly as much as what they have traditionally done because he is playing hurt. And how effective is he going to be as a passer? There were some rumors early in this week, Alan, that this kid was not going to play. Now, Justin Fuente kind of says he expects him to play. Coach Narduzzi said he expects him to play. So I think we got to respect that. But there's no way this guy's 100%. And even if he was, he doesn't seem like the type of player that is really going to be able to, do a lot of damage against Pitt. I'm not saying they're not going to give up some yards. They've definitely shown the ability to do that. But it seems like this is a defense or an offense, that the Pitt defense is going to have some success against.
Yeah, I think this is also not a quick striking offense.
Yeah.
So that plays into Pitt's favor, I think. That gives Pitt more time, to get after Burmeister or whomever ends up playing quarterback for the majority of this game with that banged up shoulder. So knowing that, it feels like Pitt has the matchup on paper, but then again, you go out there and you brought up Trey Turner. That guy is, I think, developing into a pretty darn good receiver, a guy that, I think is on the cusp of becoming a deep threat, can do some stuff downfield. And that's what I like about. I like watching Virginia Tech just as a college football fan because they don't dink and dunk to some of their guys. They go for some chunks. So let's see how disciplined Pitt's secondary will be. Hopefully they don't have to be, though, because I'm kind of predicting I'm going to Italy next week, so I'm predicting Haba's going to have maybe 5 sacks in this one.
I'd love to see that. But it's interesting, this Virginia Tech offense. If Pitt starts off this game, and doesn't start clicking right off the bat, maybe there's a fluke touchdown given up and they get behind, and Virginia Tech is running the ball more, keeping Pitt's offense off the field. Pitt's, they can't get frustrated. They gotta maintain their composure, and whenever they do get on the field, they'll have to make it count. They can't just think, "Oh, we got to get all this back in one play," even though they're very capable of it. But I think that's going to put, if we do get in that sort of situation, Pitt's defense is really going to have to step up and get the ball back, because if this running game does start to be successful, that could really shorten the game, and that swings it more into Virginia Tech's favor, I think.
I feel like Pitt will be okay. I'm putting it out there. I feel like there's just not going to be big gashes by Virginia Tech on the ground, and I think that's probably what Pitt's game planning for. And I bet Pitt stops it. I am, as I am always with how Narduzzi goes out there and throws his guys on an island, worried about downfield throws, because I think Burmeister's a capable quarterback. If he has enough time, and just goes through a normal progression, you can really damage Pitt down the field. So that's why I am predicting, Vince, in this game, neither team is going to do much in terms of big play, splash plays on the ground. It's all coming through the air, if at all, for the Hokies, obviously for the Pitt Panthers. I think Addison's going to have a good one, but this is a game I think I'm looking in the sky. Even though some signs are telling us watch the ground, I'm looking at the sky.
Well, I think Pitt may have to be able to run the ball in this game, because we've seen a tremendous amount of success from this passing game this year, but we should probably acknowledge that this is I would say the toughest defense that they've had faced so far this year. And it's going to be on the road. It's going to be a big challenge. I think they're going to have to get something from the running game in order to win this ball game.
Let us know what you think. What's the key to the win? Is it just simply believing you can beat Virginia Tech on the road and believing you're the best team in the ACC all of a sudden because Clemson stinks? I mean, for Clemson, they stink. They don't really stink. I mean, do they really stink? That's another debate for another time. But let us know at H2P Show. And we will hail to Pitt with you online. We always love interacting, seeing what you're saying. in the Pitternet, and that's why we have a whole segment dedicated to it each and every single week, Vince. Let's see what they said. With a whole week off to say whatever was on their minds with no Pitt football last week, oh my God, what are we in for?
Well, let's hear it.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
Okay, on Panther Lair, in response to some Pitt Bowl projections, Pitt playing Virginia Tech on Saturday, CMU and Pitt said Pitt is absolutely a top 25 team. Nearly every poll that uses advanced stats and modeling would say so. The only reason they're not is the implicit positioning of them preseason, well outside of it. And they have CMU and Pitt on Panther, Vince. They have a point because if you look on PFF, Pro Football Focus, which was what we reference a lot here on this show for some great advanced stats and projections and power rankings and whatnot, they have their algorithms. They have their calculations. They have Pitt 14th in the country in their power rankings. Not too shabby.
No, not at all. I'm curious to know what goes into all those computer rankings, what kind of algorithms they're using.
Well, the PFF stuff takes a lot of individual. It takes a lot of individual grades, and then they add it up into a team grade, and because they do that on their service, they're watching every single player's. Oh yeah. Individual plays, and they rank them based on their own criteria for depth of passes and stuff. I mean, it is really interesting and making this football season really fun for me to follow that kind of stuff. And they have a point too that the preseason is arbitrary in terms of where you are outside the 25, because then it makes you look like you're way worse than you actually were, when Pitt is and probably was a top 25 team preseason and now, and it always ends up playing out and the truth comes out. So none of it really matters preseason.
Yeah. I'm it'd be interesting to see right now if there was, the college football playoff rankings, Alan, to see where that committee, who is supposed to be watching these games very closely, to see where they would rank the Panthers. Because, if you look at some of these, Associated Press and coaches polls, I mean, it kind of seems like they're just very stubborn rankings, in my opinion, because they did some sort of preseason poll, which is mostly a guess, and a lot of it sometimes just based on name and last year's performance, and then they just shuffle teams up and down depending on how they do, and if you're not ranked in the top 25 at the start of the season, you kind of got to go undefeated or only have a couple losses at the end of the year really to crack that. And certainly this early in the season, from what we've seen, if you're not undefeated and you weren't ranked in the preseason, you're not going to be ranked in this. And this really isn't that big of a deal. We'll find out at the end of the year how good they are and what they're ranked by the playoff poll. That's going to be the most important. So I'm not really too concerned about this, but it makes for a good discussion.
It's all what you go by. I mean, there's some people who rank and have votes teams based on their conversations with coaches preseason, and they go by that. And there are people who rank it by the previous season. It's all different criteria. All I know is that I like looking at PFF site and seeing Pitt has a 34% chance to win the ACC. Not the Coastal, Vince. The ACC. 34%. Climbing up 7% from last week, and they didn't even play.
And I mean, if they win this week, just think how high it'll be.
Oh my God, it's over 50.
They have a great opportunity here. These next two games, and they got to win this first one first, but these next two games are big challenges. And if they do that, there's going to be a lot sitting in front of them People are going to start getting really excited, but they're going to have to handle that and acknowledge their opponents.
Next up, this is Deep Ellum Blues. Is this from Panther Lair as well, Vince?
Yes, it is.
This is someone's uncle, I think, saying, I think I want Pitt to get a little mad and try to hang 70 the next 2 weeks. Go for it. Time to get angry.
I agree.
Putting up 70 takes a little bit more than anger. It's going to take a lot of Virginia Tech playing terribly to do that.
And more than a little mad. You might need to get real mad in order to do that. But yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech's good. They're not going to lay down. They got, Pitt has in some years put up a lot of points on this team. We've seen it. But yeah, they're really going to have to. I don't expect Virginia Tech just to let that happen. I think they're good. They're going to put up good resistance. I really do.
Pitt's chances to put up 70, I think, have passed them by this season, don't you? Is there anyone left they could put 70 up on?
Oh yeah. Well, they've done it already once. Duke, they probably could. If they wanted to against Georgia Tech, I think they could have put up 70.
I thought they were going to put up 80. That's what I'm hoping for. Screw 70. Let's go for 80. Just smoke out the ears angry for that game. I don't know. You play offense better in a better mood, I think. Anger is what you want the defense to be on. Deep Ellum Blues, but I like it. I like that you believe in Pitt putting that many points up again. Pitt 79 referencing that the game was on ESPN2, Vince said, yes, a channel that you can respect. Is that a big jab at the ACC network, I guess? They're not a fan of the ACC network?
I think so. But what goes into like a television channel that you can respect?
Oh, I mean, if you want a TV channel that you can respect, I think you want them to I think they need to have, first and foremost, have really good stuff that nobody is really talking about airing between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. Shows like NFL Matchup are really good. Maybe Slam Ball or some sort of obscure sport. And that's where ESPN2 really has come in handy for years and years. But really, how the hell do you differentiate ESPN from ESPN2 anymore these days? It's all basically the same now.
Yeah, they're all the same. Yeah, this isn't what it was, 10 years ago. Or 20 years ago, I should say, when being on those channels was a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, they're the ESPN2 game now. I mean, it is. I guess ACC Network still is the extra, right? There are people who only have ESPN and ESPN2, I guess, and they don't have all the other.
I guess there probably is if you have a bare bones channel. I was actually in a hotel room for work not too long ago. I'd say within the past 8 years, and it had ESPN2 in HD, but ESPN was only in regular.
Oh man, what a story to tell some young people in the near future. That'll be. I remember back when only one of the ESPNs was in HD,
and it was two out of all. It was of them.
Two. They were experimenting with it. They weren't sure it was going to stick. Are people going to love this clarity when they're watching a game? I don't know. Let's put it on ESPN too.
Which channel do you think you respect the most right now? TNT?
Oh, currently I'm 100%. TNT is just killing it. Now they have hockey. They've got NBA is just it's just forever the best. And now with hockey and pro wrestling on that channel, plus all the Star Wars, how can you beat TNT? It's almost not even fair or close anymore. I mean, having the NFL is nice and all, but it's unless Peyton and Eli are calling the game, I really don't care what channel it's on.
I'd agree with that. Maybe Iron Eagle, though. I don't know.
I'd rather have Iron Eagle's son.
Yeah, he's good.
Birdie Eagle or whatever his name is. All right. Let's shout out to nepotism. Let's go to what they're saying around town, though. I mean, not everybody in Pittsburgh's all over the internet all the time. People live in reality here, and they like to talk about the teams in person, especially if, they're double vaccinated, some even triple, and they're feeling, healthy and good, and they go out and they meet some friends and they chat about Pitt in the off week. And, there was things said last week, even though there wasn't a game, Vince.
Yeah, there were a lot of, like I said, they've got some big games coming up, and everybody's getting pretty excited about it.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Trying to find out what the Panthers are saying.
You think them Clemson Tigers are out of the ACC running in that?
Oh, yeah, dude. Pitt's in the driver's seat,
I just got this funny feeling. They win these games right here and end up losing to some scrub team.
They already got that out of the way in that.
Hail to Pitt.
What the Panthers are saying.
So that's what the Inzers are saying. Some people are already looking past this Virginia Tech game. I'm telling you right now, you can't be doing that. This is going to be a hard fought game. I'm saying that right now. But Alan, we had a huge week in college football last week. Some really entertaining games. Not quite that slate this week, but still some good stuff to talk about.
Last week was crazy, but college football. If I know you, I know that you're going to deliver some sneaky, high-quality, entertaining games this week. I think you might even give us Syracuse over Clemson. I don't know. Upset special right out the gate, Vince. I'm feeling good about that one, but it's not on our slate. We obviously have to talk about, the team that I just knew would choke it away last week, and they did, but it was maybe an all-timer, Red River shootout between Texas and Oklahoma this week. The Longhorns take on the Cowboys at home against Oklahoma State. 5.5. They are given. But what do you think? What did you learn about Texas last week?
I can't believe they lost that game. I mean, yeah,
I can. And I almost predicted. I even almost said last week on the show, words out of my mouth were almost. And I bet Spencer Rattler gets pulled in the middle of the game and they still win. I almost said that.
That's always the wild card there. It seemed like, Texas. They just, I don't know, and It seems like in this game they're 5.5 point favorites at home against Oklahoma State, a team that nobody really is respecting at all around the country. They are fortunate to be undefeated, but they are, and they have all to play for right now. They're an undefeated team that not too many people are talking about. Texas, it almost seems like they benefited more, in national spotlight from losing that game the way they did versus Oklahoma State, who hasn't played in hardly any high-profile games. Texas, you said it last week, Alan, their defense is just not very good. And Oklahoma State, they do have the ability to put up some points, and they play strong defense. I expect them to hang in here. I'm not quite sure if they're going to win the game, but I definitely like them plus the points.
But my God, can Texas run the ball?
Yeah, they can.
Bijan Robinson, that's worth the price of admission alone there. Watching this game, though, I'm going to be looking for a Texas bounce back, given that first loss to Oklahoma State, even though, everything I've read about this in terms of betting, Vince said, go with Oklahoma State against that 5.5. I don't know. I have a feeling that Sark can, really adjust. Maybe not defensively too much, because how can you when you're just working with not a good defense? But I think that the emotion of last week played into it, and if Texas didn't, probably just shoot themselves in the foot too much, they would have won. But they're going to win this week. I got them. I like the Longhorns this week at home too.
You don't think it's a big letdown game for them?
No, the last week was the letdown game. If anything, they learned that they could hang, and that the SEC it looms large, and that probably not for any of these players, but as a program, they really can't afford to lose a game like this. So there's too much riding on it, and I think they'll deliver.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll definitely
Imagine
be watching.
Texas just becomes a cellar-dwelling loser in the Big 12 their last few years there, and then go to the SEC. and they lost all their fans, and everybody became a big like Texas Tech or A&M fan. I mean, everyone's an A&M fan now after last week, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. Number 11, Kentucky Wildcats, a 24-point dog between the hedges against the number 1 dogs of Georgia, Allen. This Georgia team is just defensively just stopping everybody. Kentucky, I don't know how they're still undefeated. Their offense is not very good at all. Physical team, I'll give them that. But you're not going to out-physical the Georgia Bulldogs here. This is a game, much like that Arkansas game, to me, that they played against Georgia, where Georgia's going to win this game probably 30-0.
I like Georgia to give up 0 points in this game for sure. Legendary defense already. 24 worries me. That the points are I don't know about. I mean, this is definitely I'm going shut out city. I don't know how the hell Kentucky can score on this team. They are not very good and undefeated. It's kind of insane to me. This isn't like the Benny Snell Kentucky team that was enjoyable. This is odd. And I don't know. Maybe it's because they played teams on down years for them. I mean, when you got LSU and Florida having rough ones, I feel like it just feels like reality check time for the Wildcats, doesn't it?
I think so. Although I did think that could have happened against Florida too, but they took it to them. You mentioned that 24 number, Alan. So this opened over at the Westgate at 22.5. It went all the way up to 24, and now it's back down to 23. So some wise guys jumping in on that key 24 number. So there could be something there, but to me, it wouldn't matter to me. I mean, Georgia just seems, just unless they choose to do absolutely nothing on offense, it seems like they'll have no problem covering this number. Probably the play is Kentucky team total under, which I'm not quite sure what that number is at the moment, but I bet it's very low.
Can you? I want to find someone that's going to give me. I want prop bets on this defense because watch Adam Anderson, Trayvon Walker. This team is like going to get that by the end of the season. It feels like that status is one of the best ever. I'll whisper it for now, but it's like on that path, Vince. It's that scary good. I might say the defense might outscore Kentucky.
You might be right.
As a team.
It wouldn't surprise me.
So that one won't be close. What do you got for me next? Anything that's going to be of note? What about a hottie toddy going out there blowing their chest up after their big win over the Hogs, squeaking by Pig Suey and the Pitbull Pittman?
That was definitely the game of the year. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, A&M could go to hell. Screw all that. Screw Virginia Tech, Notre Dame last week. Screw it all. Ole Miss, Arkansas last week was absurd.
It was. Just Ole Miss doing what they do best on defense, just getting the ball back, even if that means giving up a touchdown, just so they could go back down and score. I absolutely loved it. Couldn't get much better than that. The 13th Rebels are going on the road to the Tennessee Volunteers. So an interesting matchup to see how Tennessee does against a good opponent. Tennessee's been scoring a lot of points recently, Alan. So any win that they would have certainly would be good for the Panthers' resume. But I want to talk about this total in this game, 81 points, Alan. Do you think there's going to be that much scoring in this one?
Goodness. I mean, 81. That is a lot. And what is Tennessee has put up? When was the last time they put up under 30? Oh, 3 weeks ago against Florida. You know, they put 34 up on us, and the Pitt defense is much better than Ole Miss. So I like it. I like it. 81. I'm with it. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too, and I can't wait to watch it.
Who will Tennessee be trotting out there? Is it going to be? Does Tennessee have they gone to Hooker?
Yes, he's been the main guy there.
Okay, yeah, I haven't caught them since we beat them. So Hooker. Oh yeah, I like this for sure. Just don't make him throw downfield. Actually, when Ole Miss dares him to throw downfield, I bet he actually completes some passes.
he might. Yeah, there probably won't be as much pressure on him. That game's at 7:30. So you could watch that after the Pitt game.
Good, nice. I watched last week. I watched the Hogs and Hottie Toddy completely on the road on my phone. As enjoyable as any game I've ever watched on my phone, except for when Pitt beat Penn State a few years ago. But usually if I'm turning on my phone to watch an entire game, Vince, that usually means I'm in for something, an instant classic. I think that's what we got.
Did your phone overheat?
Oh no, you charge it. These things are there's a 12 right here, man. This is like a Ferrari. This thing, it can last and purr like a kitten.
All right, the main event here, Pitt 5.5 point favorite at Virginia Tech. This line opened, Alan, if you were paying attention to this, there were some releases last week even on this game where it said like Virginia Tech was going to be a 1 point favorite in this game. But probably the quarterback injury news is kind of why this line really opened at 4, and it got all the way up to 6.5 at the Westgate Superbook, and it's come back down a little bit. People taking 6.5 down to 5 right now. To me, this game, it still seems like Pitt's not getting a ton of respect for how I don't think the country maybe is as believing in this offense as we are, or maybe not trusting this defense as much as we are. I think Pitt's going to come out in this game, and if they can start fast, which I think they can, and Virginia Tech is forced to throw the ball with personnel that, and doing things that are a little out of character for them, I think it's going to make them very uncomfortable. And I think Pitt can win this game. And I'm thinking of a score of, I'm going to say 42-28.
That is, if Virginia Tech is scoring under 30, they're losing. I'm saying that for sure. So I like that. What does that do to Pitt's average though? I'm almost turning into John Harbaugh here now. I only care about the stat now that they average over 50 a game. That's all I care about almost now. I'm less confident in Pitt keeping Virginia Tech under 30 than you then, because I do think they score over 30, and I think the defense is they're not there yet. They're not mistake free. They are also very prone to giving up the big play. How many times this year have we seen Pitt hit big plays on offense and then immediately give up a big play, or even get a big play on defense, but not get a big sack or something, and then give up a huge 60-yard play or something? It's just very bend or break, bend don't break, and it's like up and down. These games go crazy, and in this atmosphere, I feel like it's going to be a crazy game.
Yeah, it very well could, yeah.
And it's a team that was hardened, I think, last week against Notre Dame. I think that'll be a good thing. Even though they lost, Virginia Tech's loss is, I think, only going to make them a better mentally tough team. Pitt has been prone also to the freaking offensive penalties. Looking at you, offensive line. Didn't even mention how's that going to play out. So that's why I feel like it's close. But then again, Pitt gets theirs. So I think we're getting this thing, but it's going to be, man, it's going to be nail bite city. I'm saying 43-42 Pitt Panthers win.
Wow. Okay. This is a very difficult game to predict for me, because on paper, this is an offense that Pitt's defense should have a lot of success against. However, they have a coach that knows how to have some success against Pitt's defense. He hasn't done it every single year, but he knows how to attack it. So you got to think that they're going to incorporate some of that stuff. But, can you just flip that switch on and go to a passing team, when you've been a running team all year? I don't know if they could do that. But I think they do have enough talent on this team to score some points. There's no doubt about that. So, I could see a scenario where it's a very close game.
And following the money, it looks like 67% of the cash, 64% of the tickets on Pitt to cover a 5-point spread. So that gives me confidence, but not enough where I don't think this thing is going to be a 1 point. Damn it, that was so close, but what a game. And maybe even the game, Pitt has a chance to be in the game of the week, the follow-up to a legendary weekend in college football.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to be watching this one on ESPN2, a channel you can respect.
A respectable channel airing a very respectable game between a team that might be. This is where I like Pitt's spot right now, also for like young people or people who change who they root for in college football every year. Pitt's like in a great spot to get a lot of. Yeah, Pitt's in a great spot to get a lot of bandwagon fans. Right now, and maybe if that'll help recruiting. And now they're on ESPN2. Imagine what that's going to do for recruiting.
Yeah,
I'm surprised no one said that on Panther Lair. Big opportunity for recruiting on ESPN2 this week.
Well, yeah, especially if you get that channel in HD. How sharp Kenny Pickett's going to be looking there. That's big. That's big time stuff. So much ahead of this team. They got to respect their opponent. They got to understand that they are capable of getting beat this game if they don't show up and they don't take it to them. They got to do that. And then, the sky's the limit if they could do that.
I have a feeling after Pitt wins this one, a announcer on ESPN2, or maybe even Pat Narduzzi himself, might say, we pulled that one out, and the best thing that could have happened to us all year was losing to Western Michigan. I feel like someone at some point is going to say that. I hope they do, because that means Pitt's winning moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think they'll say it this week, but maybe down the line. They when they're on the podium accepting that ACC championship, I could see that.
Oh my goodness! Let's respect your opponent one game at a time. Let's not get there just yet. But what is it? 34% chance to do that, according to PFF. We'll see though. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. That's all we got this week. We're ready now. I'm officially ready for Pitt, Virginia Tech. This is the last game of the season. I'm watching stateside, Vince. I think. No, I might have some at the end of maybe November. And then, of course, bowl season. But I'm going to be watching the games from Italy. So we'll be coming to you live on tape from Rome next week, everybody. So be prepared. Might be a bilingual show, Vince. So get your language app, your Google Translator, whatever gimmick you use ready. Because I'm coming at you in Italian.
What's that one? Mango? Or is that one of them?
An app? There's an app called Mango? Oh, I have to check that out. I've just been using the Translate app on my awesome iPhone 12 that plays college football games really well in the car.
Mango languages. I knew I saw that somewhere.
We'll look that up. All right, everybody. Well, Vince, so you got anything left? Because I'm about ready for this game against the Hokies. And hopefully next week we're prepping everybody for Pitt, Clemson, and we're talking about the two teams in the ACC going toe-to-toe. And maybe it'll even be on ESPN.
Yeah, well, actually that game already set for ESPN or ABC, Alan. Hasn't been determined
Network
yet.
television.
I think it all has to do with how Pitt does this week and how Clemson does this Friday against Syracuse on the road. Not going to be an easy one for them. But if it is on ABC, Alan, you might be able to set up a satellite over there and or an antenna and get that game. The whole world's going to be watching if that game's on ABC. But we got to take care of business first in Blacksburg. Big game, 3:30 p.m. Saturday, ESPN2. Can't stress that channel enough. Watch it. Hail to Pitt.
All right, everybody. Make sure you dial into ESPN2, and we'll see you next week. Hail to Pitt, everybody.
Dreamed about